Welcome to Illegal Knowledge. I'm Michael Oatman.
And I'm Jim Nitzel with the Tucson Weekly. Excited to be here this evening as we meet a few of the candidates on Arizona's February 5th primary ballot. All these folks here are running for president. And Michael, let me toss it back to you.
Yeah, our episode is this week. The title is the Presidential Preference Election Special. As you can see, we have 5 candidates, myself included. That's why Jim's over here, is because I'm not actually going to be hosting the show. In fact, Jim is going to be doing the moderator and host, the first guest host ever on Illegal Knowledge. Yes, Kimmy, a little bit that way on the camera too. If we can sort of, yeah, there we go. Cool, thank you. And that is the show for this week. You can call in. We will be taking calls in about 5 or 10 minutes or so, maybe 20, somewhere in there. We will get the numbers up on the board. And next week, we're doing the Sid Vicious's Death Day. It will be a lot of Tucson artists doing whatever they're doing, unheard of local artists, playing some music, poetry, whatnot. That's in 2 weeks. The next 2 episodes will be Theoretical Physics Rules the World. It's a 2-parter. Don't miss it. Anyway, you can suggest your topic online. And again, this week's topic, the Presidential Preference Election Special. Jim, would you like to tell us a little bit about what the Project White House is, what the whole presidential preference, and actually I'm a guest, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Certainly, Michael. And again, it's quite an honor to be your very first guest host here on Illegal Knowledge. We're going to be talking, as I said, to all of these folks here who are candidates for the presidency of the United States on the February 5th Arizona presidential primary ballot. It's a very exciting time, I think, but they're not just running for president on the ballot, they're also participating in Project White House, which is a reality journalism experiment being done by the Tucson Weekly, in which we are actually allowing these candidates to post on a blog and campaign in various ways in order to earn the Tucson Weekly's endorsement in the issue that will come out the week before the actual primary on February 5th. So with that said, you can find out more information, of course, at our website. As you can see, the URL, projectwhitehouse08.com, if you're interested in learning more about them. But let's go ahead and meet our candidates this evening. All 5 of these fine folks are running, and our first one here is Libby Hubbard, also known as Doctress Newtopia. Libby, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've chosen to run for president?
I'm a futurist. I have a degree in future studies. I was the last futurist to graduate from the University of Massachusetts before the program was killed by the Reagan administration. And I want to give a vision for the world, not just the United States, but the world, so that we can live in a network of ecologies. And our ecologies are ecological cities. So we need to build that and a world energy grid as well.
And Michael, I'm sure fans of the show are already well acquainted with you, but for folks maybe watching this for the first time, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, as you know, my name is Michael Oatman. On the Democrat ballot, if you go the whole way down to the bottom and up 5, number 19 there, on February 5th, you can vote for me. And the reason why you would want to do so, if you haven't been watching the show, well, if you have been, you know, and if you haven't been, I would definitely, that there are many problems that need to be addressed. There's a common thread amongst them that is what we explore in the show, and that has a lot to do with corporatism. We know how to solve that problem, as we've talked about on the show. I am running February 5th. Please vote for me. You can also go to WordPress. We don't have that URL up, but if you go to the projectwhitehouse08.com, there's a neat little blog that Jim set up with everybody, all the Project White House candidates, and yeah, Yeah, and links to their homepages and whatnot. michaeloatman.wordpress.com, and there's plenty of information there.
Michael, I think it's very gracious of you to have your fellow opponents actually on the program.
Yeah.
Well, this is about knowledge. It's about let's tell everyone. That seemed like a no-brainer to me.
And back here, let's go to the back row here. Chuck C., also running as a Democrat in next month's primary. 18 days now, I think, until the primary. So, Chuck, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Chuck C. I hope this mic was working, but I'll try to talk loudly. I'm a native of Tucson, born and raised here, and I am on the same ballot as Michael, also the Democratic primary ballot. My interest in politics really began as I started to travel around the world and see how other people lived, and got more interested in other forms of government, and so at that point I became interested in getting more my voice out into the public sight a little bit more to try and address some of these issues. I'm particularly interested in environmental issues, which haven't been addressed very well during this election, and the general opening up of the political system to others, as Jim has done for us. So I believe that it would be nice if we could kind of ride a wave that would make that more possible throughout the country.
And then next to him we have the Superman of politics, Peter Simon Bollender. Apparently had a little brush with kryptonite earlier today. He's a teeny bit under the weather. Please forgive that. But Peter, 1 minute, introduce yourself to the folks out here.
You took the words out of my mouth. I'm under the gun right now. I don't feel too good. Probably kryptonite. Was the problem. Excuse the dress. I'm usually dressed in attire with white shirt and tie and suit, so I had to run down here to get on this most honorable show with my fellow brethren. I'm running on the Democratic ticket. My program is extremely strong and conservative. I've been in this field for planning, and especially in the alternative energy field. I'm considered a creator in society. I create ideas and concepts. I've dealt with the Mexican government, the PRI party, for almost 6 months in Mexico City. So I have a strong background in dealing with foreign governments. My local business, I've been in business all my life here. I'm a native of Tucson for 35 years. Probably the most important thing is getting involved in this Democratic primary. I love the nation of the United States of America, and I feel my 10-star program that is well-rounded. There'll be no taxation. Well, there'll be taxation, but there'll be no tax increases. And I'm going to derive most of $2 trillion to bail out the Social Security system through the introduction of an Uncle Sam's International Sweepstakes. It's a frozen fund.
And Peter, I think we can get into the details on that as we move along here. But let's introduce Charles Skelly here next to you. He can talk a little bit about why he's in the race. Our only Republican here on the set this evening, and a very prolific poster on the blog at ProjectWhitehouse.com.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I'm Charles Skelly, and as he said, I'm running on the Republican side of the ballot here. I'm outnumbered quite a bit tonight, but I'm doing my best to hold the Republican Party together. I've found that we actually send good Democrats and we send good Republicans out to Washington, and when they get to Washington, they turn into Dedocrats. And I've decided through several decades. At one time I was ready to write a book on economics explaining how the world was working, and then George Gilder wrote it before I finished mine. I had 150 pages written, and he published 300 pages. I felt very bad and quit writing right there. So my candidacy here tonight is updating that book from the beginning of the Reagan era. I'm sort of a Reagan Republican, except that he killed the investment tax credit, and I feel that that's what's destroyed, one of the things that's destroyed America. We just don't have enough working capital to get anything accomplished, and I'm trying to do a reapproachment between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in general.
Well, all right. So we've now been introduced to each of the candidates who are here tonight who are part of Project White House.
Hey, Jim. Let's say hi to Kyler.
Oh, yes,
I forgot.
of course.
I totally forgot.
All right,
Everybody, hi, Kyler.
All right, so we've said hi to Kyler. Let's get into the debate here. Let's start with Doctors Utopia. One of the things you talk about is really a sort of need to really radically change the way that we live in this society. You're ready to actually take away our cars. Tell us why we need to get rid of the automobile.
Well, the automobile causes so many deaths every year, so that's one thing. And all of the injuries, the pain it's called, the air pollution, the congestion. Our cities they're being destroyed by the automobile, and so are our lungs. So those are two good reasons to get rid of it.
Now, Chuck, I know you've got concerns and some belief that we do have the ability to create a utopian future as well. But my question is, getting rid of cars, is that a step too far in your evaluation?
I think reducing our reliance on cars would be a great first step. I think having traveled a lot to Europe, I can see their mass transit systems, and there's a certain freeing that comes along with not having a car. You can just go out, jump on a bus, go wherever you want to go, jump on a subway. You don't have to worry about parking, you don't have to worry about gasoline. I think there's some real advantages that come with getting away from cars that we as American society have not embraced.
And one thing you've said is that there is a sense of urgency. We do need to act in order to change and create a better future.
Yes. For me, that's why this election is so important. This is really a pivotal time in the history of our planet, because there are so many people now on the planet. We're absorbing the resources at such a fantastically high rate, and we're polluting at the same rate, that if we don't act quickly, it's going to be more and more difficult to do anything in the future. And, okay, most of us here are old enough, I think we're going to see it through to the end, but our children and our children's children are really going to be handed a bad deal if we don't do something right away.
Charles, I know that's a common theme in many of the things that you've had to say during this campaign. We need to act.
Oh, certainly. If you check on the report from the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, they say that we're $53 trillion in the hole, falling behind by another 2 or 3 trillion every year, and there's really no way for the government to dig its way out of this hole, except we need to reform the government, I believe.
And Michael, you've got some government reform ideas as well. You're saying we need to get to a root cause.
Well, there's a number of things. The fact of the matter is that corporations that have no liability towards the people, that are not in any way responsible to the people, have been running roughshod over the people for, well, as long as they could, basically, as long as they can get away with it. Whether it was the robber baron days, which have basically been put a stop to, but through litigation, through the judiciary, it's been such that corporations have now been able to basically, they have personhood. They have essentially made it so that a corporation is a person, and not only a person, but a person with all of the money of that corporation, and then can basically buy the way through free speech, through lobbying, through all kinds of contributions to candidates, to things like that.
The corporations are just out of control.
And not only that, but there's Greg Palast described the cycle. He called it the Bush cycle. We've talked about it on the show, where you have the candidates going from industry to government office, or to being a lobbyist, or to some sort of appointee, some sort of oversight position, most often overseeing the industry. The industries that are, and then they give favors back to the industry while they're in power, then get immediately hired back, to be reabsorbed into the industry. Yeah, it's a revolving door, and it's a cycle. And the thing is that it's almost every single industry that we are seeing a crisis with has the problem of this type of influence, of this type. I mean, the number one thing that I'd say is the banking industry needs to get back under the purview of Congress. We need to nationalize the Federal Reserve. We need to put the Federal Reserve Bank back under the oversight of Congress, where it belongs, under the powers of Congress in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution.
Republican perspective on that, Charles.
Well, I was just visiting a very interesting website today, and it's describing something similar to that. We are growing debt to the Federal Reserve Bank at an incredible rate. Equity has almost, it goes up, but very, very slowly. This is the grandfather report on the internet, and basically what I can see is we're going to have to liquidate the money that we owe to the Federal Reserve Bank in an orderly fashion.
So there's some agreement then
Right,
between the
across the
parties
aisle.
here. I
That's
see.
what I
Would
said.
you, would you, sorry.
Well, Peter hasn't had a chance
Yeah,
to
okay.
speak yet, and I wanted to address one of his ideas was to establish 4 or 5, 6 maybe regional centers across the country in various retired military bases, which would be a place for the homeless and also single moms with children, and also provide health care for folks who are sick, who can't afford to otherwise get health care, could come to these regional centers and spend time in these regional centers. And then, if there were some kind of natural disaster such as Katrina, these folks could then also be part of a rapid response force to be able to help in a situation like that. My question is, are the homeless and the single moms the best people to have responding to a national crisis, Peter?
Could you rephrase that, Jim?
Is the homeless and the single moms the best folks to have responding in a case of a national crisis, or should we have trained people who would be doing
I
that?
can't be partial to that. And how to answer that, I would have to research that area first to get an accurate answer. But just guessing off the top of my head, I would say could I explain the grassroots of the 6 regional centers would not be tax paid. We would actually live off interest off a Uncle Sam sweepstake is $1 trillion. $1 trillion interest over 20 years will fund 6 regional healthcare centers with thousands of beds in each center. The homeless must be employed in these centers, janitorial, truck drivers, and so forth. Women and vets will be first priority. Yes, women and vets are priority, and yes, I think they will do an excellent job. You'll lose some and you'll win some. That's the name of life. And I think majority will have the odds on their side. We're going to have 6 centers, so that's a very costly project. But there'll be no tax increases. For my program, the interest off the Uncle Sam sweepstake, which is $2 trillion, will pay for the regional healthcare centers. And a quick deployment center is most needed, as we've seen the hardships we went through with Katrina. And 911 was handled a little bumpy and needed a little more organization, but we're out there with a heart and soul. We did the best job we can do. But Katrina, I would say, looking at it, was slow response. My centers would offer an immediate response, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 hours, with Red Cross, National Guard, and the homeless. The homeless would be
part of your rapid response
part of the
team.
rapid response team.
Dr. Sutopi, could the homeless do any worse a job responding than the federal government did in the case of Katrina?
Well, certainly the homeless know how to live in emergency. They're in crisis all the time. So they can cope. They have been, but they're not coping well. So we really need to build new cities for all of the homeless people. And there are thousands of homeless people. There are billions of homeless people throughout the world. This is a crime. And we have the resources to build new kinds of cities for every single homeless person in the world. And that's what we should be doing.
And one of the planks in your platform, elimination of property rights, how would that affect the homeless?
Well, it would give them an understanding that every single part of the world is sacred and belongs to them. It belongs to everyone. And that's what we need to do, is to have a system where we can understand the sacred earth and that it belongs to everyone.
Chuck, can I ask you, elimination of property rights, where do you stand on that one?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. Elimination of property rights, property rights are kind of one of the fundamental keystones of American life, and I can't see us really getting rid of property rights. Certainly, big business has kind of overstepped their bounds, I think, in controlling what can be done with property, these large developments, just the whole kind of quest for the money and for stability. But I think that we're really going to have to, I think that the basis of having property and caring for it, having it theirs, I think they showed in the Soviet system that having not having property rights really didn't work.
Okay, if you're just joining us, this is a special episode of Illegal Knowledge. We are now looking at the Project White House candidates all running for president this February 5th on the Arizona primary ballot. Here we have with us Libby, Dr. Snootopia Hubbard, Michael Oatman, Chuck C., Peter Simon Bollender, and Charles Skelly.
And our guest host,
and
Jim Nitzel.
Me, Jim Nitzel, here helping us through a forum where you can learn the views of these candidates. To learn more about them, go to our website, projectwhitehouse08.com, where they are competing in a variety of campaign challenges in order to win the Tucson Weekly's endorsement. There's also a reader's endorsement, which means you, the viewer out there, can vote to decide who should get the reader's endorsement of one of these candidates or one of the other candidates in the race. Let's continue with our questions here this evening. Michael, if you had an island and there were 30 astronauts on one side, 30 cavemen on the other, they went to war with one another. At the end of the day, who would be the last man standing, an astronaut or a caveman?
What? You know, I hate to do this because, I mean, I usually answer every single question directly, but on this show, I mean, as opposed to the Art Bell live call-in talk show, we deal with reality here at Illegal Knowledge, and I'm sorry, what?
We're gonna check. Peter, astronauts or cavemen, who would
I
win?
have a very good answer, and I think anybody, the cable, will agree on me.
The corporations always
You
win.
cannot fight a club with a laser. I'm talking about Star Wars technology. Of course, the astronauts would easily defeat just about any kind of backward or dark age force. So
Okay, Chuck, what do you think? Astronauts or cavemen?
You know, I work in aerospace engineering, and I can assure you that the cavemen would win.
Your thought, astronauts versus cavemen.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing. I believe the cavemen would win because the astronauts would want all their power units to work and their dilithium crystals, and it just won't function on an island.
All right. Dr. Snootopia, astronauts or cavemen?
The astronauts would win because you're just talking about cavemen, and if there's no cave women, they're not going to be able to reproduce.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to have settled that one here this evening. Dr. Snoopia, on a similar note, one of the things you've said during this campaign is, and by the way, we will be taking calls from our viewers, Michael?
Relatively shortly. I mean, we can start anytime soon if you want to.
What's the number? Oh, do we have
We
calls
have
coming
the
in?
numbers up, but we don't want to say them out on the air because we do a show. We do the show replays on Wednesdays at 11.
I see.
And
I
then
see.
and we don't want people calling on to the wrong show.
Waiting here? Is
Yeah,
that
the little
what's
red
happening?
button,
So
right?
I would
Not the
press-
hold,
I
but
would
yeah,
press
just the one, and really
okay.
you got to press it hard. Because
Okay.
like hard.
Hello.
Welcome, you're on Illegal Knowledge. You say that.
Hi.
Welcome. You're on Illegal Knowledge. You have a question for the candidates this evening.
Yes, I have a question for the Republican. Is that better? Yeah. All right. There's a lot of things that you can do to help the world out. I guess that's what you're running for. Am I right?
That's correct.
So, what would
Is the caller there?
I think he's there.
hello?
Yes, hello. Are you still there?
Okay. What would be the first thing that you would do? This, you know, I hear a lot of things about the government and stuff like that, and what they say is like they're trying to have like a new world order. Are you familiar with this?
Well, yes, I'm familiar with that. That referred to the fact that communism was the second world, capitalism was the first, and the third world was, of course, the third world. We lost communism, so naturally it was a new world order.
Okay, so do you accept this or do you not? And if you don't,
Well, it was actually the George Bush Sr. that came up with the phrase, and I don't think anybody uses it very much anymore.
all right. Okay, if you don't, then what steps would you be taking towards having a greater America?
Well, one of my campaign activities is trying to salvage the Social Security and the Medicare program, trying to move towards a more rational a way for the government to function instead of simply misrepresenting all the information. You know, that would be one of my very first activities. As I've said on my posts, I would delay the retirement age for Social Security by half of a year as soon as I took office. At least I would tell Congress to do it. That would be like the first day. These guys are so crazy, they call it the third rail. They just say nobody can deal with these problems, and I would start by doing it.
Okay.
You have a question for any of our other candidates?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael, is this
Is
another?
he there?
I think he's gone. We have another call here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Is the caller there?
Yes, the caller is here.
Welcome to
great.
Legal Knowledge. You're on the air. Do you have a question?
Correct. I'm hearing you're having some technical difficulties.
A little bit. We're just
I'm a rookie at this
Yeah.
phone handling business.
he doesn't understand. You really have to press the button. 15 years of use of the little handset.
Mr. Ninsel's doing a great job as the moderator.
Thank you.
Give a hand, people.
Thank you very much, caller.
But I'd like to know the opinion of the candidates about the 1872 mining laws, specifically the Rosemont Junction plan by Augusta and Sumitomo Mining to create a mine in the Santa Rita Mountains.
Certainly a hot issue here in southern Arizona, that mine proposal down there in the Santa Rita Mountains. Dr. Sotopia, would you like to go first on this one?
I think that we have to really get a team of scientists together to understand how much of our resources we've lost and how much we need to build new cities. I think everything should be geared towards building radically new cities, evolutionary cities. So right now I think that we should stop a lot of the mining and relook at what we're doing.
All right, and in the back row here, Charles, any thoughts on the 1872 Mining Act and that proposal to mine down in the Santa Ritas?
Well, in general, the 1872 Act was a very good act, but it was for 1872. I think possibly we need to look at it, revisit it 130 years later.
All right, Michael, your thoughts?
I kind of side with Dr. Utopia here. I think that we really, rather than mining mines, I don't think we should be doing mining or logging really anymore. We have extracted enough materials out of the earth that we should be mining the landfills and creating energy in ways that is truly sustainable and not in a way that destroys the earth as a result.
Peter, your thoughts on the proposal to mine down there and possible reform of the 1872 Mining Act?
These are surface thoughts, because I really haven't had deep thoughts in this area. But my surface thoughts tells me, anytime you hamper progress in a negative way, a negative fashion, eliminate jobs, eliminate natural resources, the table that you're sitting at is from mining, its floor, everything is wood, and we would eliminate that in our society. With a growing population worldwide, by billions and billions, we need natural resources. So I would say the only thing on the surface I could say, we should have control, extreme control, inspection on new mines, on landscaping, make it look decent. Like the Duval mines down south, the copper mines have done a real fine job on landscaping, putting shrub on hills that once looked pretty bare. Now it's decent. And I think if the mining companies actually paid attention to what they're doing as far as appearance, I think I'd be very safe to say it's a great idea.
All right, and Chuck, your deciding vote here. Where are you on this?
Okay, excuse me. Not familiar with the act at all. However, my thoughts in general on mining are that we need resources. It's an economic question, of course. We have to balance our need for the resources with our environment. Once our environment has been destroyed, it's gone. And so we need to be very careful with what we do in the way of mining. Certainly.
Hello? Oh, we've got another caller.
Go ahead and drop it.
Up.
Sorry, caller. We weren't ready yet. Somehow you got through to us, unfortunately.
So I can wait.
Yeah.
Just give us another.
Just go ahead and call back. Are you? Oh, okay. Well, then go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the caller,
go ahead.
go right
I
ahead.
sort of wanted to say something, but I'll just do it when we talk to each other later.
It's like I could wait
without
No,
you hanging up.
go
on
ahead,
me.
go ahead.
Come in when you want me to.
Go.
Let's hear what
We'll
you
just
got.
do it now.
Well, I wanted to talk to, I didn't catch her name, but the Revolution lady. I've seen her show before.
Right. Doctor's
Yeah.
Utopia.
Yeah, I liked what you were saying about the cars, but I wanted to tell you about, like that little daydream I had about, being more efficient. I pictured these cars, okay? They were on,
Turn down your TV caller, please.
I always do, but
Yep.
I might have got a little too close, but I had
Okay.
something written down. But I pictured this kind of propelling system that would shoot the car up over the city, and wherever you needed to go, it would just land there. And that's crazy, right? But I mean, it's this kind of outside ideas that may come up with something someday.
I think we're seeing a lot of agents of change, certainly in this campaign. So is there a question there, or are you just asking us if we think the shooting car is a good idea?
No, I came up with that, but I'd already written some stuff down. But as far as revolution and all that, I don't know. It kind of sounded like a New World Order kind of thing to me because, you want to change everything and make everything different. But that's what Bush Sr. was trying to do, and he was calling it New World Order. I'm not for or against. These are just kind of comments.
Well, I would. Dr. Utopia can certainly speak for herself, but from what I'm familiar with George Bush Sr.'s policies and Dr. Utopia's policies, I think there is a gulf of difference
Oh,
between
yeah,
the
but I'm
two.
talking about the concept, though.
Yeah.
Such radical changes.
Well, you have to realize that science is universal. Love seems to be universal. It is universal.
Right.
So we're in a situation where we have to realize these universal truths and have a politics that is real. That's why we're in real journalism here.
Well, didn't the hippies try that one time? All you need is love kind of stuff. It didn't work.
Well,
I
it
would say
doesn't
it
mean
didn't
that
work.
it's not going to work this time.
I'm of that generation. I wish it would have.
Yeah.
It would have been great.
Yeah, well, we're doing it. It's just another phase in that movement. This is just another phase.
Utopia, on the subject of changes, one of the things that you've said during the campaign is you think a lot of the labor currently done by men and women could be done by robots. Is there a danger if we start using robots for much of our labor that the robots will become our masters and we will become their servants?
Well, I think that's why you have to program them to not kill people, to use their intelligence to help humanity. I think there's ethics involved with programming artificial intelligence.
Michael, we skipped over you on the last round. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
The
Okay, thank
danger,
you. I'm gonna hang on up.
Okay, thank you.
a danger in having robots take over much of the labor in society and having them turn on us, their human masters.
Actually, during the episode that I did a couple of months back, the discussion of non-valuation, I was saying that basically most of the labor, if we could migrate to a society like this, could be done by automation, and that people would not need to and the thing is, if you have a robot, the software that runs the robot. I mean, if you have an assembly line and a robot goes like this and spot welds right there, and then spot welds right there, and it doesn't have the. I mean, unless you stuck your head there, in which case it would gladly spot weld right there. Right. And if that meant that you died, then well, okay, but the robot didn't kill you. Now, if we don't have AI robots like in the way of Kubrick and in the way of and that's, I mean, you can get away with automation without having artificial intelligence and without robots that could possibly take over, and it's a fear that is used to argue against the point when in fact the point is totally valid and you can use automation completely. However, what you want to make sure you do is you don't want to get rid of all kinds of jobs in the process.
Okay, so you're pro-robot.
I am pro a different society in terms of...
I've seen these Terminator films. Skynet seems like a very terrifying thing to me. Your thoughts on robots taking over America?
Well, I am pro-robot. We use a lot of robots when we go into deep space, and they work very successfully. The problem with the artificial intelligence is we often tend to create the intelligence based on our intelligence. So the robot may have the same tendencies that we have. We need to be smart enough to create artificial intelligent beings that are a little bit higher on the evolutionary scale than we are. And I think we'll be all right.
Peter, your thoughts on robots?
Robotics. Robotics can be micro, nanotechnology. It's very successful in medicine. Little robots in the bloodstream on a joyride repairing tissue. And now we go into the outer world and where we have larger robotics. And I think there should be a plan or a policy developed probably by government and with a good relationship with the corporate industry, when to and when not to. Perfectly planned when to introduce massive amount of robotics, and it should be tied in with economic means. So there should be policy drawn forthwith in the future to define when robotics can literally take over, and I think we're about 50 to 100 years away.
All right, Charles, your thoughts on the dangers, potential dangers of robots taking over the country should we hand over too much to them?
All right. I think if we just start with the comment there in terms of 100 years into the future till the robots take over, I wouldn't want to pin that down to any plus or minus so many years, but my feeling is we're going to be, as presidents here, looking at the next 4 years, and at the present time, robots are mainly good for sweeping the bottom of your swimming pool. I just can't picture them taking over the world while this administration would function.
All right, and again, you are watching Illegal Knowledge this evening. It is a special episode in which we're profiling candidates for the presidency of the United States that will actually be appearing on your ballot on February 5th. They're also competing in Project White House, a reality journalism competition sponsored by the Tucson Weekly. Here again, Drs. Newtopia, Michael Oatman, Chuck C., Peter Simon Bollender, and Charles Skelly, all sharing their points of view. And we have a caller, so let's put them on with us. Caller, do you have a question for the candidates?
That's actually don't hit the green ones. They have to be red. So just go ahead and leave
it's red now.
There, now do it.
Right.
Yeah, now do it.
Caller, you have a question for the candidates.
Hello, are you speaking with me?
Yes. You're on Illegal Knowledge.
I do. Actually, my question is twofold, and it's about the robots. And I don't know if you caught the Colbert Report the other night, but they had an author on who's written a book about having sex with robots in the future. And my question is, would you be able to foresee a time where people would be able to marry robots? And also, I would like to find out if the robots are solar powered.
Very important sustainability.
Yes. Very good issue
thing.
there.
And also, human-robot relationships, pro-cyber marriage. Dr. Newtopia.
About the marriage to robots, I think that people use blow-up dolls now to have sex with, and that's kind of like just an empty robot.
Although the marriage is not necessarily legal in that case.
Yeah.
In every state.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole thing about marriage, we have to redefine what marriage is. It's terms of marrying a robot or gay marriages, or I think the heterosexual marriage at this point is falling apart. So I think that we really need like a hierarchos gammus, which is a sacred marriage that brings together the male and female components in a way that creates a new culture. That's what we're looking for.
All right, Michael, pro or con robo-marriage?
Okay. Well, the whole thing that I have said is that the state should miss out of the business of marriage. That's the church's thing. If we want for tax purposes to say that cohabitative couples can, of whatever, it doesn't matter whether they consider themselves married partners, platonic, whatever, anything. And if you're sharing a household, hey, maybe there should be tax breaks for things like that. The state should not be in the business of marriage. The other thing, that I wanted to talk about here too is about housing for people, in that there are approximately 1/3 as many homes as there are people. So And
But three
and,
people
yeah.
could live in a home.
Well, three
That would
people
solve
could,
the
and that may be a good plus there for like. But who cares? Let the religious establishment deal with the definition of marriage. It's not for the state. It does have no bearing. It really, yeah.
Chuck, pro or con robo marriage?
Well, as attractive as it is to have a programmable spouse, I'm not sure going all the way to marriage is quite the right thing. I think there are kind of two levels of marriage. There's the kind of civil end of it, and there's the spiritual end of it. And I think the civil end of it really has to do with social rights and tax laws. And I think the spiritual end really needs to be left up to the individual, and I wouldn't pretend to stand in the way of that in any way.
All right, Peter, robo marriage?
I was afraid this would come to me. This is, I'm going to approach this on a very serious level, because it really is a very comical. But if you really look at it on a serious level, I'm going to speak for myself. I can't generalize for the general public. And religion would just kind of sweep it off the floor, and it'd be a big no in all forms of religious matter. Politically, I don't think this would be a political matter. But myself, if there was a robot that attractive and looked real, I would actually look at this thing being almost human. It depends on the degree of how it looks. I mean, right now robots are metal and and so forth, and I don't think it would be a very attractive robot. So I would turn this robot down flatly as far as marriage.
All right. And, I have a very attractive Roomba that actually runs around my house, by the way. Charles.
I do not want to know.
Now we know.
I saw a movie on this. It was Melanie Griffith. It was called Cherry 2000. She was the robot.
And a very attractive one, I'm sure.
It was. And it turned out you can explore, if you're serious about exploring the psychological principles involved, I'd recommend watching that movie. It's Cherry 2000. It turned out that she was mostly adapted to living in the after the Holocaust or whatever in the future. And she was very good at driving race cars, so it worked out quite well as the marriage went.
Oh, well, okay.
It was Paul Willis, wasn't it?
A lot of people are married to their computers.
It does seem that way these days. All right. I guess we're going to have some closing statements here from the candidates as time
Questions
is...
amongst each other.
Oh, you want to have...
Yeah,
all
if
right.
you
Does
want.
Any
I mean,
of the
let's...
candidates have a question
For other candidates, yeah.
Here, as we're closing in towards the end there, anybody have a question for one of the other candidates?
Yes. Could I?
Yes, Simon. Oh, you might want to use the microphone, though.
Yes.
Yes. That would be a good idea. I'm not going to really pinpoint, but it came up in the beginning of the program about eliminating cars. And that would be catastrophic at this time to take cars out of our society. We'd have millions of jobs lost. Our economy would go downhill. I think the alternative is immediately introduce hydrogen-fueled cars. And one of my programs, which was looked at by many, is have engines retrofitted, pre-made on hydrogen fuel that would fit into Volkswagens, F-150, cars that are in masses, so we can just retrofit instead of junking cars at $30,000, $40,000 and buy a new car with alternative energy. Just retrofit car engines made by, it's a new industry. This is part of my program. Retrofit alternative car engines, and it would only cost $3,000 or $4,000.
Nushovia, would you like to respond to that quickly?
Yes, I don't think that that's the way to go because it still creates urban sprawl. We have to design cities that you think about the transportation system like you would think about it's incorporated within the city. Like in your body, it's the veins in your body. That's what a transportation system would work like. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to look at this holistic way to design cities that we haven't done yet, and it's time to do it.
Can I bounce off that?
Well, okay, 30
Let's go to
seconds.
another.
30
I
seconds,
still
Peter.
disagree. Cities are not like our bodies or veins. Cities house millions and millions of people. We've seen where cities go wrong. You just need a new form, alternative energy, and keep up with our materialistic outlook, which is our great American lifestyle.
Okay,
Don't bound
we're gonna have to stop the sparks flying here right now because we are reaching the end of the debate, and we wanted to give everybody, I think, about 45 seconds here. Michael, is that good? 45
yeah, that
seconds?
should be
Somewhere in
good.
that 30
Yeah,
to
somewhere in
45
there.
seconds
Yeah,
to
just
close out. Again, more information
cut 'em
about
off,
these
Jim, if
candidates
they
at
go long.
projectwhitehouse08.com. If you want to learn more about Project White House. We started with Dr. Zootopia earlier. Charles Skelly.
Yeah, let's go backwards.
Why don't we go with the other direction? Why don't you go ahead and tell us, why people should vote for you?
All right. I think that if you study my program, which is posted on a bunch of blog things there on the Project White House, you'll see that I've covered very comprehensively the majority of the problems that our country is facing, and that I'm ready to go, as Hillary kept saying, from day one. So I would say that's it. I've done my homework.
He's got the experience. He's ready to go. Peter, your 30 seconds. Why people should vote for you?
Hillary, Obama, politicians in the marketplace today are fraudulent. They're called Band-Aid politicians. They're all attorneys. You're going to have an attorney run a government of 300 million people. Why not have business people like most of us here that have good ideas, solid ways to eliminate taxes and create new concepts to make money for the federal government?
All right. Chuck C., Democrat. Why should folks vote for you on February 5th?
Well, public speaking isn't my strong suit, but I do have a website. It's chuckc.com. Last name is S-E-E. And I hope you'll join me there, and I hope that we can begin a discussion. I've really enjoyed this time together because we've been able to discuss some of the tangent issues, I would say, rather than some of the ones that you hear all the time on television. And I think that we need to bring into some of these other kitchen table issues into the mainstream. And so I hope you'll join us in doing that.
All right. And Michael Oatman, 30-second wrap-up here.
Well, we can turn this country around. It will involve unifying the ideas of restructuring the economy with creating more jobs for the middle class, with building of an alternative energy infrastructure, with a greening of the environment, with a greening of the corporate structure, and with getting rid, not bailing out, as my Republican comrade here believes, but in fact taking over the Federal Reserve Bank, taking over, just negating the debt that our country has.
Sparks are flying
and
again here in our closing statements.
Wow.
Dr. Zootopia.
We need a steady state economy. It works like a coral reef. It just brings in sunlight. And so with that as the basis, we can create ecological cities. And that's what we need. We need a new direction for our cities.
All right. Well, I think we've all heard from a variety of agents of change this evening, certainly. A different perspective on this year's presidential campaign. You can vote for all these folks. You can also see another Project White House debate this Wednesday night, 8 p.m. on channel 99 Cox. And I'm not sure what the Comcast one is. I believe
It
it's
would be 74, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so we'll be joining you again later this week. And in the meantime, I'm going to toss it back to Michael, and thank all you guys for coming down here and sharing your perspectives.
Right on. And thank you, everyone. And please, let's all thank Jim for being our moderator again.
Great job.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he's...
It's been a delight, you guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Again, this is Legal Knowledge. My name is Michael. That is Jim. And our candidates, very quickly, just real quick, just state your names, just so Republican,
Charles Skelly.
Democrat,
Pete Simon Bolender.
Democrat Chuck C.
Democrat Michael Oatman.
And a Democrat doctor's Utopia.
All right, so there you have it. 5 contenders here out of the 48 candidates who you will be able to choose between on February 5th. The Republican and the Democratic presidential primaries coming up. Obviously, a lot of excitement about these campaigns, and I think you now know a little bit more about the candidates that you will have to choose from.
I want to say one other thing also. Basically, the presidential preference election in itself doesn't really choose the president at all. And to think that to vote for any one of us is to throw your vote away. In fact, what you're doing is you're throwing your vote away if you're voting for, say, Hillary or Obama, because they're already in there. If you vote for someone who is not one of those candidates, you have the opportunity to actually create change where otherwise there would not be any of that change. And please recognize that it is not throwing your vote away to vote for any of us. It is in fact throwing your vote away to not. We have 10 seconds left, and I would like to say bye. This is Illegal Knowledge. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll be talking, well, it'll be the Sid Vicious's death day. We'll
Not to
have
mention the
musicians.
after-
Bye-bye, everybody!
Aftermath of the